So some of you may be familiar with Charlie. He is the self-proclaimed atheist homophobe that has called into the Atheist Experience show several weeks, and he's gone under the names of Evolved Atheist, I believe it is, Truth Hurts. He refers to himself as Charlie. And I, in my frustration with hearing him call into the Atheist Experience show, where they don't have a lot of time to deal with all of the things he's brought up, got in contact with Charlie myself, and I offered to have him on Blog TV and have a conversation with him there where we can kind of take our time and go through some things and actually give him an opportunity to express himself and the time needed to walk through the things I think he's confused about. And Charlie responded and said that would be okay with him, and I wanted to have a clear understanding of exactly what his position was in several areas, and I asked him for the major points that he wants to talk about, because he obviously wants to have a public audience on his feelings here. And he sent me a PM with several things in it, all of which I'm going to show and address here to get the big stuff out of the way. Hopefully I can curtail a lot of the ignorance on this issue that he has right away, and we might not even have to have this conversation. So we'll start off with what he sent me, and I'll respond to it as we go along. Gender roles are beneficial to many heterosexuals, and gender roles continue to serve a valuable purpose in reproduction desires. Gender roles are not beneficial to many homos, so therefore many pro-gays downplay gender roles as if they're bad for everyone. That's wrong. Roles in a relationship are best left to individual couples to decide for themselves. In some heterosexual relationships, the traditional gender role concept works best. In others, a complete reversal of those gender roles works best, meaning that sometimes a woman is the breadwinner and the male does all the housekeeping, money managing, child raising. In many modern relationships, both genders share equal parts of both those traditional roles. An extreme minority of people, they're called feminazis, will argue against the application of traditional gender roles if that's what both people in the heterosexual relationship desire for themselves. What most progressive people disagree with is forcing people to fill certain roles based strictly on genders despite individual skill sets and personalities. Advocating that individual couples decide for themselves what roles to play in a relationship, whether it's a homosexual or a heterosexual one, does not depreciate the value of traditional or modern concepts of how a relationship should work. Pro-gays fail to realize the gay marriage fight is nothing more or less than a clash of values. The problem is, values are subjective. Pro-gays constantly attempt to appeal to emotions by pretending that gay marriage is a rights issue. Many people who oppose gay marriage would support gays having full equal rights without the word marriage. Many people value marriage as husband and wife. Many gays don't value heterosexual relationships enough to believe that they should have their own special identity. Marriage is the established identity of husband and wife, and people have grown to value that identity to specifically represent husband and wife. It's the same as gays valuing the term homosexuals to mean gay people. They wouldn't want that term broadened to mean anyone with an abnormal brain structure. The gay marriage issue is strictly about rights, and even if it was about values, that would have nothing to do with definitions. It's not an appeal to emotions for homosexuals to believe they deserve the same rights as heterosexuals have. As society progresses, we have and will continue to expand the opportunities that were once limited to a select demographic to a more general populace. Allowing those rights, but under the stipulation of some other label, is not good enough as a matter of principle. Just like how society in America at one point had come to accept that water fountains and restrooms near the front of the buildings were for white people. The water from the fountains at the back of the building was just as wet, so why couldn't advocates for black rights just accept that as good enough? Isn't it shocking to you that many black people didn't respect white people enough to let them have their own fountains? Do you see how ridiculous that is? And how ridiculous it is for you to take the position that the word marriage is recognized by many people as between man and woman and therefore can't be expanded to homosexual couples? 8 states across the United States of America, including D.C., now recognize homosexual marriage as legally acceptable, and in no way has that devalued or disrespected heterosexual marriages in those states. Nor has it created mass confusion regarding what marriage means, just like how allowing interracial marriages has in no way disrespected or devalued marriages between people of the same ethnicity. Your attempted analogy by saying that if marriage can include homosexuals, it's the same as homosexuality's definition being used to include all people with brain abnormalities is deeply invalid. Marriage is a legally binding institution, not an adjective used to describe people with a specific sexual orientation. Your attempted analogy ignores that vital difference, and that makes the two terms incomparable. You'd be better served to explain why two loving, consenting adults shouldn't be able to legally wed just as they are in several states without any problematic consequences than you would be to enter a semantic debate with false equivocations as ammunition. You'll just keep firing blanks. Homophobia is the biggest misnomer of the entire English language, and it has been used as a deceitful tactic to verbally beat their opposition into political submission. So it's fair to say that the gay movement is one of the most deceitful movements in human history because it has been the main promoters and supporters of the use of the biggest misnomer. Simply having the suffix phobia attached to it is outright deceitful. It's not a phobia, and it's not fear-based. Not one study shows the feelings associated with the term homophobia is involving fear. Studies show homophobia is rooted in disgust, not fear. Study shows many disgust are behavior immune systems that makes perfect sense, being that the fact that the gay men are in fact the undisputed champs of STDs. 1 in 5 gay men are infected with HIV. Gay men are 44 times more likely to contract HIV compared to straight men. Gay men have a higher risk of contracting chlamydia, HPV, syphilis, and gonorrhea. Gay men also have a higher risk of sparking and spreading new STDs. Gay men aren't allowed to donate blood, plasma, sperm, or bone marrow. So, disgust of gay men actually correlates with scientific findings. Disgust of gay men is part of being a straight man. Disgust is what keeps us straight. Disgust prevents many straight men from seeking sexual gratification from other men. I need you to pin down exactly what you mean by the gay movement. The only agenda I find of the homosexual community is for them to be treated as equal to heterosexuals. This is no different from the movement for black rights or female rights. You've said that this movement isn't about rights, it's about values, but you haven't told me what values the gay movement is apparently trying to force upon everyone else. I need you to explain how gay people wanting equal rights is separate from any minority group wanting rights that are equal to the majority, and what homosexuals have done in their alleged movement beyond seeking equality. Regarding the term homophobia, it's a label. Phobia does literally mean a persistent irrational fear of a specific object, activity, or situation that leads to a compelling desire to avoid it. For someone so strict about the definition of marriage not being expanded for the sake of granting people equal rights, you're awfully flexible with the term phobia. I've heard you label yourself as a homophobe and then try to explain that your feelings are not rooted in fear. I don't understand that. If your feelings against homosexuals and or homosexual marriage rights are not based on fear, then you're not a homophobe. Not all people who oppose gay rights are afraid of homosexuality. Though most people opposed to gay rights do have an irrational, ignorant fear of that which they don't understand or some level of insecurity for their own sexuality, it doesn't mean that such fear applies to all people who take that position. It's perfectly okay to label yourself as anti-gay marriage without calling yourself a homophobe. Why you insist on clinging to the term rather than describing yourself with a label that actually fits the description of your position is beyond me. Now, your personal feelings against homosexuality may well be rooted in disgust. Whether someone is against homosexuality because of fear or disgust is irrelevant, though, because neither of those things justifies stripping the equal rights from two consenting adults, regardless of their genders. Plenty of racist people today are disgusted by interracial marriage, but that doesn't justify denying marriage rights to couples of mixed ethnicities. Then you went off on a spiel about sexual infections that gay men are apparently more susceptible to cause and to receive than straight men. But you didn't cite any sources for your findings. If you're going to build an argument around those specific numbers, I really need to know where they came from so I can investigate them myself. I'm not even going to harp too heavily on your uncited sources, though, because the logical flaws in your justification of disgust are the far greater issue here than your shaky numbers. By your logic, that which is susceptible to STIs is remarkably more disgusting than that which is not. The more likely people are to be sexually infected, the more disgusting they are. So, I imagine that you're absolutely revolted by prostitutes, or people who have more than one sexual partner in their lifetimes, or people who don't use condoms. A more poignant issue is that I imagine you practice absolute celibacy yourself, and that you consider heterosexual people who are sexually active to be disgusting by comparison. You see, I personally am celibate right now, and by your logic, unless you are too, I should be disgusted by you because you are astronomically more likely than I am to receive an STI. It seems that because STIs are not exclusive to homosexuals, it's the infections themselves that you should be disgusted by, not the sexual orientation of the people you claim to have a higher statistic probability of receiving them. Now, your statement that disgust for homosexuality is part of being heterosexual is mind-boggling to me. Almost as mind-boggling as your claim that said disgust is what prevents many straight men from engaging in homosexuality. For one thing, I'm a heterosexual, a male exclusively attracted to females, especially Brazilians, and I don't find homosexuals disgusting in the least. My lack of disgust for gay men doesn't cause me to seek sexual pleasure from other men either. That should be a newsflash to you, sir. If your unwillingness to fuck another man is based only on your disgust for the idea of homosexuals rather than your actual preference for women, then you might be gay. There'd be nothing wrong with that either. You need to explain how men achieving sexual satisfaction from other men is deleterious to you, let alone all of society, before your position against it carries any significance. Many pro-gay atheists become like Christians when the topic of homosexuality and gender roles are mentioned. Like many Christians, many pro-gay atheists easily feel attacked when anyone says anything about homosexuality that they disagree with, whether it's true or false. That's why many Christians and pro-gay atheists would rather ban anyone who disagrees and has a good argument because they feel attacked by the disagreement and the challenge. I think it's because both pro-gay atheists and Christians' views on those subjects are emotionally charged. Many pro-atheists dumb down in the name of homosexuality, just like many educated Christians dumb down in the name of Christianity. I hope that after seeing my detailed explanations for how absurd your line of thinking has been, that you can understand why people get frustrated with you. You probably get banned or hung up on when you call into these shows because the arguments you presented are so incomplete and illogical that they're either thinking you're trolling them for attention or that you're so illogical about this issue that you aren't worth talking to and wasting their time on. You'd also probably be best served to separate the issues of atheism and homosexuality. Plenty of Christians, despite what the Bible says, have no problem with homosexuals or their justifiable quest for equal rights. Here are some examples of pro-gay atheist beliefs, views, and quotes in which shows that they become more illogical and dumbed down when discussing the topic of homosexuality. You can't be an atheist because you oppose gay marriage. People who say that are incorrect. They have made the same mistake that you have of creating an undue connection between a position separate from religion and a theological position. Being an atheist just means you don't believe in a god or gods. Nothing more, nothing less. The number of atheists who would make statements like that is incredibly low, and I don't see why you bother bringing it up as if it's a majority stance. If you have a problem with gays, it only means you're secretly gay or fighting your gay thoughts. Well, that's not always the case, and for someone to claim that all anti-gay people are automatically homosexuals is an inaccurate absolute, as is the case with most sweeping generalizations. However, many people who have passionately spoken out against homosexuality and homosexual rights have turned out to be closet homosexuals who just had trouble internalizing their own sexual desires. Pointing out that some people that disagree with you have made an inaccurate assumption like this does not bolster your own position, though. Anyone who says anything bad about gays were influenced by religion. All negative views on homosexuality were caused by religion. Again, we have absolutes here that lead to overgeneralizations. Misuses of absolutes are problems, but they are much smaller problems than the plethora of illogical craters that your position is littered with. All gay people are born gay. There's another absolute used here on an issue that's not entirely clear. The nature versus nurture debate is as old as the study of genetics itself, and it's unclear at exactly what point of each person's sexual preference is technically arrived at, but that's neither here nor there. Even if people did choose to be gay, just like when you chose to be a heterosexual, What difference would it make? If homosexuality was a choice, what business of yours is it who other people love and how consenting adults consummate that love beyond closed doors? There is no logical argument against gay marriage. There isn't one. At least you haven't made one yet. Anyone who opposes gay marriage is uneducated or bigoted. That's certainly not true. They may just be really confused about the facts they've been given or raised to believe illogical things. So the explanation for their stance against gay marriage may be that they're stupid rather than ignorant, or they may be illogical rather than bigoted for any number of reasons. Many pro-gay atheists fail to consider the possibilities of why religion turned against homosexuality in the first place. People often turn to religion when things go wrong in which they don't understand. It's possible that the acceptance of homosexuality led to major problems in which caused people to use religion as a weapon against homosexuality. Ancient Greece accepted homosexuality, but they also accepted pedophilia, gay incest. It was in fact the norm. Just like today, there could have been major STD outbreaks, being the fact that bisexuals always existed too, and bisexuals could have simply passed STDs to females, in which spread throughout the population. People simply didn't understand STDs or even call them STDs at the time, so religion would have been their best course of action. What? None of that explains why you think religion is against homosexuality or why they're right for being against homosexuality. It simply states that you don't know how the phrase "in which" works, and that you have a paranoia of STIs so extreme that you tend to think that homosexuals are the primary source of them. In a very weak attempt to explain how homosexuality is harmful to society, you've stated that sexually transmitted infections, which is the accurate modern wording for them, were at one time rampant in ancient Greece, and bisexuals must have trafficked them into the innocent heterosexual population. Again, your problem here is not with homosexuality or bisexuality. Your problem is with STIs, unprotected sex, and sexual partners not being responsible enough to communicate with each other in open and honest relationships in an effort to thwart the spreading of infections. Are you against cars as well because drunk drivers wouldn't cause car accidents if cars didn't exist? What's really humorous to me about your position here is that the logical desire for you would be to hope that all gay people would hook up exclusively with other gay people in strictly monogamous relationships to prevent the spread of those infections into the heterosexual population, which apparently doesn't have any STIs of its own. You know what institution is the strongest proponent of such monogamy outside of the Mormon faith? Marriage! Netherlands is the leading gay marriage nation. Gay marriage has been legal there longer than any other place. What's going on in Netherlands? 1. Major problem with gay gang rapes, and they are purposely infecting their victims with HIV. Your problem here isn't with gay people. It's with gangs and with rapists. Oh, and you don't seem too fond of HIV either, so I'll leave some links below to a charity event that's working on practical prevention methods and a cure for HIV. I'm sure those charities will have your full support. 2. The worst and largest pedophile ring case in human history. Your problem here isn't with gay people either. It's with pederasts, as I assume it's pederasty, not pedophilia, that you really have a problem with. Either way, it would be with pedophiles or pederasts, not with gay people. You're under the impression that the correlation equals causation here, which it doesn't. For example, if a black man robs a store, it doesn't mean that he robbed it because he's black or because he's a man, and it doesn't mean that all black people or all men are thieves. Get it? Good. Moving on. 3 and 4. New gay disease spreading. HIV and STDs spreading rapidly among gay men. If you think that gay people are such a horrible burden to society, then the presence of STIs among them should be something you're happy about, not upset about. And like I said, you should be making a big push to encourage monogamous relationships among them rather than letting them roam free to spread their infections any further. Like by allowing them to get married! So Charlie, I hope this helps to clear up some of the things about your position on gay marriage and why atheists who like to consider themselves generally logical get frustrated when you run around championing yourself as an atheist homophobe. There's a comment section below. Use it.